Yes, that's right. I think there's been, a number of things have taken place recently which have certainly boosted market sentiment both globally and I think more importantly also finally for China within an emerging market context. Exactly as you say, it's becoming more and more apparent to financial markets everywhere that a Janet Yellen-led Fed will be, in all likelihood, dovish for longer. Her background as a very accomplished labor economist does imply that there will be a greater focus on the path of the recovery of the U.S. labor market as opposed to issues regarding inflation. This means that in all likelihood we're just going to have more of the same, but certainly a dovish bias. That sort of puts us into a relative sweet spot in terms of risky assets, because on one hand you have a global recovery or a U.S. recovery which is okay, but it's certainly below the previous trend. You have hardly any signs of inflation. At the same time, these sort of lingering clouds over the labor market. So these all combine actually quite nicely to give you a relatively supportive backdrop for risky assets. And this spills over quite nicely as well into emerging markets for 2014. Yes, China, I mean, I think we have to look at it as a longer narrative that actually started at the end of September with the launch of the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. We had that, then we've had the plenum that just took place, and now sort of more discussions regarding the TPP, sort of into the longer term and China's potential membership of that. I mean, 2013 in general has been a very difficult year for emerging markets, certainly also China and Chinese assets with the exception of the renminbi itself. And now I think markets are sort of really beginning to recognize that there are some important catalysts that have been unleashed recently. As I mentioned, these three things, the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, the plenum, and these ideas about a Chinese membership in the TPP. So what we've seen in the last sort of few weeks and certainly the last few days is more confidence from investors around the world to be taking on a Chinese exposure, which I think they've been relatively underweight for most of this year. In addition to that, there's also recognition that Chinese valuations, finally after such a long period of underperformance, are now also quite cheap, and we do have a rebound that is taking place on Chinese earnings. So you have enough things which are coming together which I think are sort of encouraging investors once again to take on Chinese equity exposure in a broader context of having more emerging markets in their portfolios.